In C and C++ console applications, it's very common to get user input from the standard input stream. Let's see how this works. Start by grabbing a copy of working.c. So I'm going to copy this with my keyboard and paste it into the working project. And I'll just double click on this and bring it up. Now I'm going to add a few things here, and some of this will be stuff that we haven't covered yet in this course, so bear with me. I'm going to start by using an enum for a constant because this is a common paradigm in C. I'm just going to define max string equals 127. And I'm going to define a static character string space, static char string. The size is max string plus 1. And I'm going to initialize it to an empty string. And you'll notice that the parser is giving me an error here, unused declaration of variable string. That's just because I've declared it and I haven't used it yet. And so we're going to use it, so we don't need to really worry about that error at this point. So my first printf here is going to be a prompt. I'm just going to say type a string and give it a space there. And you'll notice I keep pressing the save key on my keyboard, Command S on this Mac or Control S on a PC. That's just a habit. I do that a lot. And now I'm going to use the fgets function, which is a very common way to get input from the input stream. The first argument is the string buffer where the input is going to go. The second is the maximum size. So you see what we did there is we defined that constant max string, so we can use it in several different places. And if we need to change it, we can just change it in one place and everything will update properly. And then the third argument is the input stream. So I'm going to say standard in. Of course, if you had a file for your input or whatever, you would put that there. So fgets is a little bit flexible and it allows you to get your input from different places. But we're talking about standard in at this point. And so we're using the standard in stream here. So now that I've got it, you'll notice that I'm using this string buffer. So that error bug symbol is gone. And now we're going to print our output. We're going to say printf, the string is, and I'm going to use the % sign and an S. This is a token for printf to tell it to print the next argument, and \n for the new line. Then after the quote, comma, string, and terminate with a semicolon. So what this does is it prints out the string. It says the string is, and then this %s will get replaced with the contents of the string buffer. So now I save and compile and run by pressing the big green button there. And it's asking me to type a string. So I'm going to put my cursor down here and click, and that'll put the focus into that console so I can actually type into this now. I can say this is a string, and I'm going to press the return key to terminate, and you'll notice it types the string is, this is a string. So that's this string here, the string is, that's called the format string in printf. The F there stands for format. And then the %s gets replaced with the contents of that string, which we got from our standard in, and it's this string here. It says this is a string, and so that is the replacement string down there that goes in place of the %s. So that's how fgets works. Fgets here is the function that actually gets the input from the standard input stream. You will sometimes see examples that use a function called gets without the F before it. And don't ever do that. You'll see examples that do it that way. It was deprecated in the C99 standard, and it's actually been completely removed from C11. So if I were to try it here, it wouldn't work. The reason for that is it was an old function from the old days when people weren't as worried about inputs getting attacked and computers being compromised. And since it doesn't have a way of telling you how big the buffer is, it's very, very easy to create problems with it. You can get leaky memory. You can get all kinds of problems from using gets. That's the gets function without the F. So you want to make sure that you're just using the version with the F. There's a newer version that's defined in C11 called gets_s that works very much like fgets, but just go ahead and use fgets. That's the standard and common way to do this. Now let's take a look at how C++ deals with standard in. So we're going to close this. Going to delete it from our project. Go ahead and right click and press delete and OK. And we're going to project clean. OK. And we're going to grab working.cpp. So I will copy and select our working project and paste and double click to open it. And there's the working.cpp, and we can go ahead and start typing in here. So I'm going to do this very differently. I'm going to use the string class instead of a character array. And again, we'll get into these different types later on in the course. Right now, we're just focusing on how standard in works. I'm going to call it input string. And I'm going to put out a prompt with this first cout, type a string. And now I'm going to use cin. And you notice that my little angle brackets go the other way, input string. And that's as simple as that is. I'm going to type cout and input is and input string and L. So this outputs the string with the cout class, and it inputs a string from the cin class, and then it sends out this string input is and the input string itself. So this actually looks a whole lot more simple, and you'll see that it works a little bit differently. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we will run it. And so there's our prompt, input a string, type a string. I'm going to just say this is a string, just like I did before. Press the return key, and you see input is, and it just has the word this. So the thing about cin is it separates on words. It doesn't separate on entire lines. If you want to get an entire line, there's some different ways to do it, and there's some complicated options you can give to cin. But the easy way to do it is to use the getLine function, which is part of the C++ standard library. And so I'm going to just type here getLine and cin for the stream. Again, you could use a file for your stream or whatever you have, and input string like that. And so again, it's still very simple. And when I save this and run it, this is a string. Now we get the entire string. So that's how input streams work in C++. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this and project clean. So we put our environment back in a clean state. And now you have a good understanding of how input and output streams work in C and C++.